On the day of our honeymoon departure, he presented divorce papers before me.
I'm taking my whole family with me. If you don't like it, we'll get divorced.
Fine, but I'm still single, you know.
Huh?
I screamed in my mind as he stood there dumbfounded. Take that! My name is Emma, 35 years old, and I work at a real estate company. I enjoy my work and find it fulfilling, and I have been fortunate to have supportive seniors and juniors. On the other hand, my personal life lacks any particular hobbies, and I have never had a boyfriend. I secretly felt anxious. My friends were getting married one after another, reaching their peak at 30. There are only a few of us who are still single. My juniors also left the company one after another, and each time it felt like a stab in the chest. That's when I met Brian through a friend's introduction. He was 2 years younger and had a smile that tickled my maternal instincts. He spoke few words and always listened to my opinion when making decisions. He always prioritized my thoughts. Never having any experience with men before, I quickly fell for Brian's personality. Our relationship developed smoothly. When I mentioned marriage, he responded,
"Then let's get married."
When it comes to marriage, a dozen of decisions must be made. Wedding ceremony, honeymoon, and a new home to live in together. It's a once-in-a-lifetime major event, so I wanted to make decisions together. But no matter what we decided, he would always listen to my opinion. He wouldn't express his own opinion, just agreeing with me. Brian's personality felt a bit unreliable, and I started to feel dissatisfied with him. There is another thing that troubles me. It's my relationship with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law's personality was completely different from Brian's easygoing nature. She doesn't listen to my opinions and immediately imposes her own ideas. Emma, when you get married, of course you'll quit your job and focus on taking care of the house, right? At your age, if you don't hurry, you won't be able to have children. Brian is working hard, so as a woman, you should focus on the family. It's the wife's duty to support her husband. When I went to greet her, these were the first words she directed at me. The husband works outside, and the wife takes care of the home. She still holds on to such old-fashioned ideas. The truth is, I earn more money than Brian. He doesn't seem to think much about it and has even told his parents about it. But his mother doesn't seem to like it. A woman who earns more than a man doesn't have any charm. Maybe you can't do any household chores, can you? A wife should be able to cook, do laundry, clean, and take care of her husband's health. Can you do that? My mother-in-law said, looking down on me. If it were Brian saying that, it would be one thing, but isn't it different when it's my mother-in-law? It's not something to brag about, but I can manage all household chores since I've been living alone for a long time. And I have no intention of quitting my job after marriage, and I want to prioritize myself as much as Brian. That's what I thought. But Brian didn't help me even when my mother-in-law criticized me. Instead of refuting my mother-in-law, he nodded along with her statements. Because of that, I felt a bit uneasy about Brian. Can I really rely on someone like this for the rest of my life? Well, Brian is younger than me after all. Maybe he'll become more reliable in the future. If this marriage falls through, I might never get married in my life. Anxiety and desires clashed in my mind, swirling around in endless conflict. However, time doesn't wait, even if I'm troubled. There are so many things I need to decide for the wedding, the destination for the honeymoon, applying for time off from work, and so on. The to-do list keeps piling up. With a sense of unease, I spent busy days preparing for both work and marriage. One day, I consulted Brian. I think, considering our work, we can only take a long vacation at this time, so is it okay to have the honeymoon during this period?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Both Brian and I have similar quiet periods at work. If we want to take a long vacation, this is the only timing we have. The problem is the wedding. The venue I've always dreamed of is so popular that it's booked for over a year in advance. In that case, what about going on the honeymoon before the wedding? I looked it up and it seems some people do that. If we have the wedding first, it will be another 2 years before we can go on the trip.
If you are okay with that, Emma, then I'm fine with it too.
I thought Brian wouldn't object, but to agree so readily. At this rate, it seems like all my opinions will be accepted for the honeymoon destination, the menu for the wedding, and the decoration of the venue. I do have a desire for Brian to express his own opinions a little, but it's better than being opposed. So, whenever I found a moment, I continued to progress with the preparations for the honeymoon and the wedding. In the end, we decided to go to Europe for the honeymoon. I debated until the last minute between Hawaii and Europe, but Hawaii is close by, and I'm sure there will be another opportunity to go there. So I chose to take a trip around Italy and France, experiencing the picturesque streets and delicious cuisine. I also wanted to explore the stylish accessories and maybe buy some commemorative tableware since it's the start of a new life. After considering various schedules and destinations, I completed the application about a month before the tour. By that time, I was completely excited. After all, it's my first overseas trip. It's impossible not to feel thrilled. My mind became filled with everything related to Europe, from buying the necessary items for the trip to planning our activities at the destination. Because of that, any dissatisfaction I had with Brian had completely disappeared. As the honeymoon approached 1 week away, Brian suddenly brought up a conversation.
Emma, I have a favor to ask.
A favor? That's unusual. I wonder what it could be. It's rare for Brian to ask me for something. Could it be about the trip? Did he find a place he wants to visit? What is it? What's wrong? I asked, filled with anticipation, and he innocently made the request.
I want to go to Champs-Élysées when we're in Paris. Mom really wants to go there.
What? My mother-in-law? Wait a minute, what do you mean? I couldn't catch up with this sudden situation, but Brian replied as if it were obvious.
Huh? Since everyone is going, we'll all be together even during the trip, right?
What do you mean by everyone? It's a honeymoon, so it's obvious that it's just me and you, the two of us going.
But my mom thinks it's normal for the whole family to go.
First of all, I only made reservations for 2 people, you and me, Brian. The tour deadline was 7 days ago, so today is the last day to register. Regardless of whether we go together or not, I only booked for 2 people, so there's no way we can go.
If you ask the travel agency, they can figure something out.
As I was dumbfounded by his statement, the intercom in the house rang. On the intercom screen, I saw the figure of my in-laws. Without caring about my surprise, my in-laws entered the house carrying a large number of bags. Ignoring my objections, my mother-in-law's eyes sparkled as she announced, I thought I'd leave the luggage here since we are leaving soon. I'm so excited. Then Brian said,
Just leave the luggage here,
and started leading my in-laws into the room without my consent. Wait a minute! I tried to stop him in a hurry, but my mother-in-law stared at me sharply. Oh, what is it, Emma? I hope you're not suddenly saying, I don't want to go together now. I didn't agree to go together in the first place. I immediately retorted, but my mother-in-law paid no attention, saying, You heard it just now, didn't you? But Brian always thought we would go together with you, right? In response to my mother-in-law's flattering question, Brian replied with a simple,
Yeah.
Taking advantage of his affirmation, my mother-in-law began to deny me. It's normal for the husband's parents to go on the honeymoon. Don't you have such common sense? I hope you won't have any unpleasant experiences during the trip being with you. Since it's a special honeymoon, we want to make good memories, right? I'll make sure to drill common sense into you during this week before we go on the trip. It's supposed to be a special honeymoon? Drilling common sense into me? It felt like everything was being ruined. I clearly felt my blood boiling. Mother-in-law, this is a honeymoon, you know? Normally, it's supposed to be just the husband and wife going, right? I desperately held my ground. If I continued to listen to my mother-in-law's side, it would affect the future. I wanted to avoid that at all costs. However, my mother-in-law stubbornly refused to compromise. Not only that, she started to deny me. The husband's parents are supposed to go on the honeymoon together. It's just common sense. I can't believe you dislike being with us. I thought we would become a family, but our common sense is different. You don't like me and nothing seems to match. How sad. As if she had been hurt herself, my mother-in-law lowered her eyebrows in an artificial manner. The end of her words, how sad, contained an underlying smirk. I was convinced that she was deliberately trying to trap me. That's how certain I was. Even Brian, without questioning, began to blame me based on my mother-in-law's words.
Emma, what the hell? They're my parents. It's okay to go on a honeymoon together, isn't it?
It's impossible. We've already made the reservations for 2 people. Besides, I've never heard of families accompanying a honeymoon trip. I declared, and Brian shouted angrily, as if picking a fight.
I never thought you hated my parents so much, Emma. That's it. Just leave for today.
He looked at me as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. As Brian spoke, a wicked smile formed on my mother-in-law's face. Why does he always take his mother's side without listening to his spouse's opinion? Especially at a time like this, I wanted him to support my views. Before I could even react to his words, I found myself pushed out to the entrance. Just before the door closed, I caught a glimpse of my mother-in-law's smug expression. I was left outside, unable to do anything but stand there. Why am I being treated like the bad guy? Why does everything have to be ruined, including this precious trip? Frustration and sadness overwhelmed me, and tears began to flow. A few hours later, I received a message from Brian.
I want you to see if it's still possible for them to join the tour. If not, we'll cancel this trip and apply for a tour where all 4 of us can go. Please think rationally. If you reconsider, we can figure it out properly.
I don't think I'm in the wrong, so I have no reason to apologize or respond. Brian must be angry too, because there was no contact after that message. Time passed, and the day of our honeymoon departure finally arrived. I couldn't imagine enjoying it in this state, but we had been preparing for this honeymoon for a month. I couldn't refuse. As I prepared to leave the house with a heavy heart, the intercom rang. Brian had come to pick me up. We hadn't seen each other since that incident, so I didn't know what kind of face to put on. The fact that he came to pick me up meant that he still intended to go on the trip. But he didn't have a single suitcase with him. Instead, he handed me a divorce paper.
After hurting my parents, you still intended to go on this trip, didn't you? I'm taking my entire family on this honeymoon. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. My mom said it would be better that way.
Saying that, he thrust the divorce paper in front of me. In that moment, I finally realized what kind of person he was. I thought he would listen to my opinions and prioritize me, that he was kind. But that wasn't the case. This man is just someone without his own opinions, and he prioritizes his family over me. That's Brian. As I came to that realization, I felt my feelings for him cooling down. Even if I were to marry him, I couldn't see myself overcoming the many challenges that awaited us in the future. And becoming a family with that mother-in-law, it was an impossible scenario. Determined, I pointed at the divorce paper in front of me and said, "Sure, but I'm still single, you know."
Huh?
Brian exclaimed, clearly surprised by my words.
Single? What do you mean?
Weren't you listening? We talked about going on the honeymoon, but delaying the registration until the day of the ceremony. I made sure to get your permission, Brian, you know. You didn't forget, did you? The marriage certificate is still in the drawer, and you even said,
"If you are fine with it, Emma, then I'm fine too."
That's right. Divorce or not, we're not even married yet. There's no problem with going on the honeymoon with my maiden name. Perhaps you remembered my words as Brian's expression suddenly changed.
But immediately, he turned red and raised his voice in frustration. "Are you out of your mind? To give up on marriage just because of a honeymoon? Get a grip!" I responded, matching Brian's intensity with my own strong voice. "This is the result of me being rational. I've been so desperate to get married that I couldn't see reality clearly. I don't think I can be happy marrying someone who doesn't listen to the opinions of their future spouse and doesn't support them. I'd rather stay single for life. Thanks for making me think that way." Haste makes waste. I keenly felt that this saying was true. "Hey, Emma, let's calm down and start over from scratch, okay?" He looked like he was about to cry. His pleading voice trembled. But I won't be fooled anymore. I will break free from this guy. Without realizing it, I found myself shouting loudly at Brian. "If you're so desperate for a family trip, why don't you go with your family of 3? But in return, you'll have to plan everything, from the tour reservations to the itinerary, all by yourself. After always relying on others, it's about time you experience the difficulty yourself. If you think you can handle it, go ahead, you indecisive man." I pulled out the marriage certificate from the drawer and tore it to shreds in front of Brian. In response to this sudden turn of events, his mouth was left hanging open. Overwhelmed by my determination, Brian was completely taken aback. "Well, do you understand how serious I am now? I refuse to have a future that's pitch black. It's over between you and me. Why don't you hurry back to your beloved mommy and cry to her, you mama's boy." Leaving a dumbfounded Brian behind, I slammed the front door shut. Given his state, he might actually go cry to his mother. I could easily imagine him doing that. Afterward, I contacted the tour company to cancel our reservations. Since it was a same-day cancellation, we were charged 100% of the cancellation fee. I billed Brian for the entire fee since he was the one who ruined our honeymoon. It was the natural outcome. Later, Brian blamed me for the failed marriage and spread rumors about it to those around us. However, it seemed that no one sympathized with him among our relatives and coworkers. Instead, he started to be seen as an unconventional mama's boy due to his past actions and was disliked by many. When I told my parents about the divorce, they were initially surprised, but quickly accepted it. "Marriage isn't the only source of happiness. As long as you're happy, Emma, that's what matters." I couldn't be more grateful for my mother's words. As a side note, since then, my hobby has become traveling. I felt it would be a waste to let long vacations go to waste, so I embarked on my first solo trip. Going overseas was a bit difficult, but I enjoyed a relaxing time in historic cities I had always wanted to visit. Wow, being alone is actually quite enjoyable. Thanks to that historical adventure trip, I've started to fully enjoy solo traveling whenever I have time off. On my next break, I'm planning to embark on my next overseas trip. I've begun a life where I won't let myself be controlled by marriage alone.